This is Smith, coach of G2, and you're listening to the Center Ring.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast, episode 209, coming to you live and/or pre-recorded from an undisclosed location. The date of this recording, February 3rd, 2020. The time, 8:58 p.m. Central Standard Time. This might be the best episode ever, if I don't say so myself. Why? Well, we got a good one for you. Plenty of e-news to get to at the end of the show. We got Yikes of the Week. Blast Premier Group A. We actually have professional Counter-Strike to talk about. Hallelujah. And Overwatch League starting this week. Going to talk a little bit of that and how Blizzard just loves to shake things up right before. Really Activision, as we've seen with CDL and Overwatch League. They just like it. They can't help themselves. So we'll talk a little owl later in the show. But before we get too far into it, make sure, if you're listening to this and you aren't already, follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring. And if you do follow us, your job is to get someone else to follow us. That's your homework. Join the Discord. You can find the link on our Twitter profile or our website, tcr.gg. YouTube, everything can be found there. Why don't you subscribe on our YouTube if you haven't already as well? The show goes live. You can check out the VODs of the video. Once in a blue moon, additional content. More to come on that front as well. But that can be all found on our YouTube, which is just youtube.com/thecentering. Go figure. Hello, my name is Tim. I will be your captain for this journey into esports, and as always is my best friend, my brown friend, it's Anuj. What's up, buddy?
Counter-Strike's back on the table. It's nice. We got some, we're talking esports today.
Like, we're an actual esports podcast now, just not talking about business. Because, there's plenty of podcasts to put people to sleep talking the esports of business. Not this one, though. We actually talk esports. And plenty of it, in fact. So let's get right into it. But before, I got to ask you, we didn't really ever talk about it last week. How was your Super Bowl?
Dude, it was good. It's a funny story. So I went to my friend's house this weekend out in Oklahoma. Spent the weekend with him, and I was like, oh, I'll come back before the game, you know? Well, we were out there gaming all weekend, hanging out. We were up, obviously, real late. So I get home, I'm exhausted. But we invite the in-laws over for the first half of the game. Things are going well. Game's fun. You know, it's fairly entertaining. I thought it was a little slow, honestly, to start. Picked up, obviously, towards the end. About 9 minutes left in the fourth. I catch this quick 20-minute nap. Maybe.
Oh, you missed the whole game at that point.
20-minute nap tops. I wake up with like a minute 32 left. Kansas City has put up 21 unanswered. So I got to rewind the game at that point and rewatch the last 8 minutes to see what the hell I just missed.
Which is no way to watch the Super Bowl.
No. I was tired. I don't have a dog in the fight. I enjoyed it, though. I mean, I'm happy Kansas City won. I'm a Patrick Mahomes fan. Obviously, him being a Texas kid and having the Texas roots was awesome to see. But a little bit of, on my part, like some spite towards San Francisco. They have 5 championships, so do the Cowboys. I didn't want them to get that 6th one, so another rooting interest there for KC.
I pretty much broke even on my bets last night. I made one mistake, one terrible mistake. Not terrible, it's whatever. So I set up all my bets the day before because obviously if you try to get in there like right before game time, every betting website will be down. It's just that's how it works. And there's plenty of prop bets. I mean, I had the coin toss. I won tails. I bet tails. Tails never fails. Won that. I lost a prop bet of what commercial will show up first, Bloomberg or Trump. I thought for sure Bloomberg because you see his
Yeah.
commercial it doesn't matter what you're watching. It's just
I
like
feel like that's a safe bet, you would think.
yeah, a Bloomberg commercial. I was like, Trump doesn't like the NFL. He might just not pay for an ad to spite them. But no, sure enough, it was like the first commercial out the gate was a Trump commercial. I was like, and it was one of those commercials where it's like, it's a politic commercial, but you don't know who. It could go either way. And then all of a sudden it's like, President Trump. And I'm like, come on, say something negative. And they're saves America. I was like, no!
Game
Bloomberg!
over. Done.
Not
Done.
only did you lose me money, you lost my vote.
Did you do a Gatorade color?
I didn't know because it got all jacked up. When Kobe died, there was rumor that they were going to do purple to honor him. And
Yeah, I felt like that was like a stretch. I heard that rumor.
the
and I
odds
was like,
were
"Oh, that's a
all
stretch."
jacked up with it.
I
so-
know. I would have lost that. I was going off of what they saw him drinking last time, and it was lime green. Ended up being what, orange?
Orange,
I think, right? for
orange,
that.
yeah.
Demi Lovato was a little light on the
The time?
national anthem. Yeah, she was under. So
Really? See, I wasn't going. I almost did that one, and I was almost going to do over. I bet the over on the game. I was like a field goal away,
What did
just
you get at
shy.
54?
Yep. Yep.
Close,
If they
close.
would have gotten one more field goal, I would have won. What other ones did I do?
Did you bet on the game?
I did. So this was my mistake here, okay? So obviously I bet a bunch. Well, earlier yesterday morning I looked at my betting slip and I was like, okay, what do I have going again? Because when you're degenerate like me, you don't even remember what you bet on. You're just putting money down on things at this point. And I was like, oh, damn, I didn't even bet on the game. Like, rookie mistake. What am I doing here? And I wanted to bet on San Francisco. So I was like, all right, well, fine. Just put another bet on, same dollar amount that I was going to do. Well, then after the game, I realized I did put a bet on San Francisco. I just didn't see
Double
it.
down.
So I ended up putting double bets on San Francisco winning it all. So,
That hurt you a little bit.
I'm not, I don't have to like sell my house or anything, but I won't be able to like buy a new video game because of it.
That feels equally as bad at times, honestly, depending on the game.
DreamHack's
So,
approaching up. I need that money for that
I
last
do.
minute party game that we're all going to get. So, rookie mistake. I doubled down and didn't realize it. Ended up losing more than I wanted to, but what can you do? It's just that's the life. But I did win some money. We won't get into it right now, but I did win some money with Blast Premiere. I kind of
okay.
made money back on that one. I kind of crushed it, if I'm not going to lie. But before we get to that, let's get to our Yikes of the Week. Shall we? I'll let you go first.
Tim, I got a doozy for us. This is going back to Activision. I know this is going to be a little bit of a tough show. If you are a Activision supporter, you're not gonna see, I think, a ton of love from us today. It's been a little rough, I would say, over the last
I don't
couple of
know.
months, but I'm gonna double down on them here. Warcraft 3. So, we talked about Warcraft 3. There was some excitement leading up to the release just because I think they had sold it off to ESL to like run the pro tournaments
Right.
for them, and we're like, hey, it's kind of a big deal. Like Blizzard usually likes to do all of this in-house, and now they're giving a good big tournament organizer an opportunity to run Warcraft 3 and StarCraft 2. So maybe it makes its way back into the scene. Tim, we're at a point where they're not even reviewing refunds anymore. They are issuing automatic refunds to anybody that applies for a refund for Warcraft 3 and for a number of things. I mean, there was a cinematic and graphic cut, so it got dumbed down and rolled back really far.
Which is
to
never
what they
good
were-
for a remaster or a remake.
For a game that's not graphics intense. Like, it's not like this is some crazy
Like, a game that was
Cyberpunk 2077 like open
You could have
world. They're
delayed it
talking
too,
about
right? Like if they were like, guys, it's gonna take like another month, but we really want to make this update worth it. Like we want to make your remaster a remaster.
it needs to feel like a remaster. People are saying in some cases, like, there's seriously some of the original scenes from Warcraft 3 like looked better, based on what they've showed and some of the side by side footage, which is all over YouTube, so you can just kind of Google that and see it. But numerous bug crashes, assets not loading up in the game, and then the biggest one of all is actually two things. So, they've titled these servers together. So Warcraft 3 and Warcraft 3 Master are now all on the same server. Well, the issue with that is now all these new bugs and issues that people are having with connectivity issues that were never happening on original Warcraft 3 are all happening at the same time right now.
So even
And
the,
so
the faithfuls who are sticking with the original Warcraft 3 are having issues.
are having issues. There's no custom games. That was another big one. Blizzard said no to custom games, which
I mean,
makes
is that going
zero
to come?
sense. Yeah, it's in there, like, right, you have to sign it, before you play, that you can be sued for any, like, custom games. They own the rights to
But
everything
again,
type
like
thing.
just delay the game then if you don't have it in there yet.
Well, and finally, the biggest thing, and this is the part that ties into, I feel like, the esports side, is it doesn't come with any of the original features that we saw back in original Warcraft. So, like clans, player profiles, competitive ladders, automated ran tournaments that they were doing in game. None of those features are in the game, and so it just makes you wonder, like, what the hell were they working on
It
this whole
seems
time? Like,
rushed, right? But it
I mean,
wasn't.
but
It took
it's not.
forever.
This game was announced a long time ago. I mean, we're a couple, we're at least a year and a half out from the announcement time. So it's not like they announced it and all of a sudden here it is. They
So,
went from beta to release really quick,
right.
but the game's been in the works for a long time now, so there's really no excuses.
So I bought it, but I haven't played it yet. I just bought it because, it's Warcraft 3. I should probably just return it then, right?
I bought mine and returned it. I didn't launch it, so I didn't have any game time in it. And I read that they're issuing automatic refunds for anybody that applies.
So you did
but
it?
I did refund it. Yeah.
Okay. You'll have to show me then
Yeah.
after the show how to do this because I'll buy it when it's leveled out, but I don't want to be because again I suck at it. I was just gonna play it for nostalgia's sake, but if it's not
Yeah.
even if you're telling
I'll
me
go
it's
get
not
original
even,
Warcraft 3
yeah,
for
like
free.
if you're telling me it's
Go
not
get
even,
that.
it annoys me when developers take away features. And we've talked about this before, right? And Nintendo is extremely guilty of this with Smash and Mario Kart and things like that. But it's like, guys, it's not rocket science. We want what the previous version had, and then some. Right? Like this is part of the issue with FGC games is you'll have one character on this game, you come out with Mortal Kombat 45, and then you don't have it's like, guys, the characters carry it over. And then they'll do
It's all there.
like
Again, competitive ladder. One thing, again, I'm going to harp on this until the end of time. Like in a competitive game, a game that's featured around esports to a certain extent, Warcraft 3
well,
was one of the original
and
esports.
their mindset was that because they signed with ESL. Like their mindset was surrounding esports then.
Either that or now it makes me think the mindset is like, oh, we didn't want to deal with this shit. So like here you go, ESL. Like this is your problem now. Like y'all want it so bad, give us some money for it. Sure. Like you handle the headaches it gives them less reason in my mind to like perfect the game. Because it's not their ass on the line if a tournament goes bad. It's not their money that they put in front of it. I mean, obviously it's not going to help sales at all, but I don't get the logic again, and like my mini yikes to go along with this. Then is once again, we still don't have. We talked about COD coming out with their comp play. We're like, okay, well, let's just wait till CDL goes live, and
It'll
they're
happen.
hyping up like the big game here, and now they're showing the competitive side and really showing off the players and what they're playing. We still don't have it in the game. So I mean, once again, I really hope with season 2 around the corner. That's a feature that's introduced at that point, but kind of just tired of excuses. Like the shit gets old. I want to move on from a game at that point if we're not getting what we want. It's just like it's frustrating. So that'll be my mini yikes to go along with it. I don't want to go a whole 2 weeks without harping on competitive ladders in both games now.
Yeah. Yeah, the Warcraft 3 thing's one thing, but yes, that's another where it's like it's so weird that it's like maybe it's just I'm not the casual guy. Well, I am casual, but we've said it like I'm a casual tryhard, right? I want to play comp, and it's like just weird that they don't do this. My yikes of the week goes to the Washington Justice, or should I say the Washington Injustice, Anuj.
What did they do?
This is going to be a little yikes of the week / salt mine, if you don't mind. When you bear the cross of freedom, the shield of righteousness, and you are Washington, D.C.'s team, you are named the Justice. I want red, white, and blue. I want to see freedom when I look at your jersey. I don't
Isn't
want
that
to
their
see.
colors?
They changed it this year because that's what all the cool kids are doing, to red and black.
The most like basic esports color theme there
Yeah,
is available
exactly.
to you.
They went from freedom and patriotism to basic bitch esports, and it drives me. I saw that and I was like, you cowards. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing, Washington? Like, why did you go to red and black? And these new jerseys in the Overwatch League, it's weird. Like, they looked a lot cooler on cool looking people in those commercials, right? Like, oh, look at these people. They're all hip wearing these streetwear stuff. But on the players, they don't look as cool. I saw red and black and I was like, guys, what are you doing? Like, this is why Washington will not win a single game this year.
But that's also like one thing that they had to kind of like stand out amongst the league where
Yeah, it
you
was a little
don't see a
different.
lot of like individual creativity, right? Coming from each of these teams. Well, they kind of had it built in. Like the red, white, and blue, we can be America's team. That's just something you can sell yourself on.
Now
So
they look like Toronto. I mean, their jerseys look
well,
exactly
like half the
Toronto.
teams again in esports, like black and red is just such a commonly overly used color scheme. So I mean, hell, that was our color scheme when we started. Black and red. That's what you just kind of go to as a
Yeah.
default to like pick it
just
up. So yeah,
I don't like it. I don't approve it. I think they need to go back. And you know what?
Or-
Maybe this is a temporary thing, but I saw the jerseys. The jerseys are black and red.
or do a name change. You can't have that name.
No,
Can't be the
absolutely not.
justice. Like you got to mix it up. Like then
You're wearing the color of the Nazis. Congratulations. You're right there with Atlanta FaZe. I don't know what they're trying to pull on us, but I'm not gonna stand for it. I won't stand for it. What if what a ringer next homestand? I just want to bring a Nazi flag and then say it's for the Washington Justice, because that's what they're doing to us.
The colors.
That's what they're doing. So that's my yikes of the week. There, it belongs to the Washington Injustice, because changing your colors, especially when you're called the Justice, you know?
Yeah, like it just doesn't fit. Like it doesn't fit anymore. They had it all lined up. Like it wasn't just the team name; it was the city, right? Like you're the capital.
Yeah, like you had it.
This was kind of easy for your
I was about to
marketing
say,
team,
like-
honestly. They didn't really need to make this.
No, like,
They made this a lot more
this
challenging
is a
than they had to.
softball for you guys. Right? All
Yeah.
these other teams are banging their heads against the whiteboard. Like, what are we going to make our branding? You're Washington, D.C. It's pretty straightforward. You name something patriotic and you make your colors red, white, and blue. Like, that's it. That's all you got to do. It's easy. But no, they somehow decided to screw that up. So rip Washington Justices. You will never win again until you change your colors back.
And then there's your TCR curse of the day.
And then maybe, if Uncle Sam decides to smile upon your godforsaken souls. You want to jump into Blast Pro or not?
Let's do it, Tim.
Not Blast
Let's
Pro.
do it.
Not Blast Pro.
Blast Premier.
And Blast Pro, I didn't know this, is officially dead. They deleted all their tweets, and if you go to Blast Pro's Twitter, it says go to Blast Premier.
Like it was just Blast Pro series, right? So now it's
Yeah.
just Blast Premier.
Yeah, I think the company itself is Blast, right?
Yeah.
And then it's a Blast Pro, whatever. I'm just saying. Fun fact of the day.
We're going to talk about Blast Premier Group A today. That's what we're going to do today. And Tim, we had like we had a good, I would say this was a good kickoff to the season for us. Like this felt like the season opener. We had first pitch this weekend. And I felt like we had a couple of home runs come out of this. Like there was really a lot to be learned about some teams. Other teams, you kind of take it with a grain of salt. But in Group A, we had Liquid, FaZe, MIBR, and NIP. I would say a pretty strong group overall. Not the strongest out of the groups that they have. I think we all can agree Group B, which we'll get into in next episode, is probably the toughest group that there is. But this one, obviously, a lot of potential with the number 2 team. FaZe coming in and seeing now that they've had some time to boot camp, right? Like there was a little bit of a built-in excuse that these tournaments, after they got Coldzera, they really just stacked one after another. You really never had an opportunity to sit down and like, hey, let's get better and craft our craft, our skill in this game. And they didn't have an opportunity to do that until over the break. NIP obviously all new roster at this point. Like you have none of the remaining NIP that legends that people are accustomed to. So it's a new look NIP, and then MIBR. I think MIBR again, another team that
Sir, NIP has threat.
Again, none of the original legends that we were all accustomed to on that team, and so really a new revamped roster there. And then again, like I was saying, with MIBR, Tim, that's that team that we're all kind of waiting to see if they can recapture that, that those glory-filled days that they had, whether that's through like the intensity and the passion that they had for Counter-Strike. Was that going to come back with a couple of the changes that they've made? Or would they just kind of gain it back from a skill standpoint? Can they at least get there, even if they're not showing it in the game?
MIBR is weird to me because with every other team that collapses, you can kind of always point to one thing. MIBR just fizzled out.
Yeah, because they fizzled out before they lost Cold Zero. So let's
I'm talking
it's not
before Cold.
It's not like we lost the best player in the world and then we lost a step. Like,
and to be real, since Cold has left, they really haven't gone up or down. They're still floating in the top 10 here, just outside of it or right at the tail end of it. So it's not like losing Cold like everyone thought. Oh wow, you're losing top 5 player in the world. And you're already a struggling roster, like GG MIBR. We'll see you later. Well, they're still there, so that tells me like Cold might have not necessarily been the problem. It might just be an overall core roster issue.
They went downhill after they lost Taco the first time, right? Like they had given Taco the boot, and they never really got that competitive drive back. Like at least in the game, like I know they're probably working hard and putting in time, but it's just never come back to fruition. And this is a group where, in my mind, looking at it ahead of time, like you had to come in at least second, right? I know the top 2 advance and automatically go through the final stage, but this was really an opportunity for like Liquid and somebody, right? That's how we saw this group, as like Liquid, and then all 3 of these teams are kind of in the same bubble phase. MIBR underperformers, NIP don't really know what to expect. And so I think all 3 of those teams really had a strong belief that they could take that second spot and hopefully take it with ease in this grouping. So starting off day 1, we had Liquid going up against MIBR. That was a 2-0. FaZe came out hot performing against NIP, and I think even though they 2-0'd NIP, we didn't know what we were getting into with FaZe at that point, right? Like that was kind of like, well, they beat NIP, that a good team. They played well in the games. I mean, there was Overpass and Mirage, both were roughly like 6-7, 6-8. Looked good. Didn't really know what we were getting yet. Then it heads into day 2.
Those were my wins, by the way.
Those were your wins for the.
I had both of those going 2-0. And you know what? Normally in Counter-Strike, I hate betting the spread because you don't know what maps you're going to get ahead of time.
Yeah.
And this is my hot gambling opinion. I think just for us gamblers, they need to do either set maps or do the veto way early on so we know what we're betting on. That's just me.
That would change the way it's definitely, I'm sure.
That's just me, and I speak for all gambling degenerates out there. I want to know the maps now ahead of time so I know what I'm gambling on, because God forbid you bet on a map and Vertigo comes up.
You have no idea.
Then you're going to overtime like Liquid and MIBR, and I'm just sweating it right now. I'm like, I should not lose this bet, and if I lose because of Vertigo, I will not be happy. But thank God it wasn't the case.
They pulled it out 22-19 on Vertigo. So Tim came out with the 2-0 win, just like Liquid and FaZe did. Moving us on to day 2. This is where I feel like it got pretty interesting, because this was the matchup, a lot of excitement tied to it. We had FaZe going up against Liquid. 2 good maps, I thought, also to kind of start off with. FaZe had picked D2 as their map pick. Liquid picked Inferno. I really thought the Dust 2 pick, we would see a pretty 50-50 game. Although Nico's proven to be really good. That's on that map.
16-2 is ugly for Dust 2. I mean, we've said it before too. Dust 2 should never be that much of a blowout in today's CSGO.
This was day 1. So this first one was
we're
16,
still on.
12.
We're on the
day 2.
We're on the first Liquid
They play
FaZe.
again. So
Okay.
yeah, you had FaZe
My
take them
point still
16-12.
stands.
And then Inferno, Liquid's map pick, FaZe took him 16-5. Nico was really a monster in this tournament. I think he led everybody in overall rating. We saw Rain up there in overall rating, Brokey, Coldzera, like all of 4 out of the 5 players, I think, were top 4 out of 5 for the weekend. Yeah, they were. And Olaf was like number 7. So not too far behind. But you really saw Nico and Rain, like, I mean, they looked good. There's a couple of 3v1s out there on Dust 2 from Rain, where he's sitting on, on A site, that were really just pretty plays, and you kind of saw that all just pure skill coming out of Rain, which I felt like he was almost on the verge of like losing it over the past like few months of the season. So saw some good performances. FaZe took it 2-0, which jumps us into the second match of the day. This was going to be, hey, the loser of this match, I mean, you're out here at this point. Like, at this point, you're in the bottom 2. You're going to be playing in the next Blast Premier Series when that takes off in a few months.
Well, you're in like that showdown thing, whatever it is.
Yeah, where 7 advance and then 7 get pulled in. And Nip took that 2-1. And again, you saw Vertigo as one of the map picks in there. That was actually picked by NIP. So I'm assuming when you are a roster that's trying to find your way, one of the best things to do is get good at maps that people really don't want to play that often. Or that I wouldn't say are necessarily insta bans, because it could get
Correct
removed
me
early
if I'm wrong,
on.
though. Isn't that something that MIBR did way back in the day? Was it MIBR?
Well, MIBR was like really good at
Cobble, wasn't
Mirage.
it? Mirage.
They were like a Mirage, like, but that's kind of the Brazilian scene. You did have, like, for a while there, Astralis, right, on Nuke. Nuke came out and Astralis went on that godly run. I'm not saying that that's what Nip is going to turn into in Vertigo, but I thought it was interesting that was their map pick. Map 3 being Inferno. Nip took that and took them 2-1, knocking MIBR straight out of the tournament and into the Blast Premier second stage showdown. And I mean, overall, did you get a chance to watch a little bit of day 2, or what were your kind of thoughts there on the least has FaZe's initial showing? Were you a believer at this point in FaZe after 2-0ing Liquid?
No, and if we can just talk overall, I still am not a believer in FaZe. I'm not going to say they're frauds, but I'm definitely going to put out the warning to FaZe fans out there that FaZe has fraud potential. Because right now, I don't know what Liquid is at. Right?
But that leads me into that question. Then where do you think Liquid's at? And what Tim is getting at is FaZe and Liquid. We'll just go ahead and throw it out there now. FaZe and Liquid played in day 3 also. That was basically the championship.
I mean, everyone knows
match.
The results at this point.
And so FaZe 2-0'd Liquid again. And this is where Tim was also talking about Dust 2 coming back up in the map pool. FaZe dominated that. That was 16-2. Really was an ugly matchup. And then on Mirage, a map that I also believe Liquid is like fairly comfortable with. I mean, it was their pick. At the very least, they should be very well prepared for a map like Mirage. And that was 16-9. Not a very close match. Close first half, but they ran away with it on the T side for FaZe. And so that's 4 straight maps, 2 of them being Dust 2, but 4 straight maps that you took off of Liquid. So it can't be both ways, right? Like, FaZe is a fraud, but Liquid is still like, and Liquid's really bad or really good. Like, what does that tell you about Liquid and where they stand at this point? I know it's early,
I
but
think it's just early. So what I think right now is you have a situation where Liquid's style of or Liquid's chances when boot camping to play a comparable team, you pretty much have Evil Genius on the NA side. So I don't think it's uncommon to see NA teams struggle early on in the season, just because they don't really have their feet underneath them. They've even talked about that on the broadcast where they're like, no excuses, but we couldn't scrim anyone compared to the top 10 in the world, right? Like,
but why can't Liquid scrim against you? You mentioned Evil Geniuses, right? You also have 100 Thieves. You have MIBR, who's LA based. Cloud9, who's like ATK now.
Yeah, but you're bringing up Cloud9's 18th best in the world right now.
Yeah, but that's assuming that like Astralis is out there playing against Mouse, Fnatic, Vitality, and Na'Vi like every weekend when they're scrimming.
Well, they have a lot better chances. I mean, of playing a little bit more evenly skilled players than that. But again, I'm
Yeah.
not saying that's the sole reason, but I also think Liquid just played pretty passive, right? Liquid relies a lot on killing, which I know every team does in Counter-Strike. That's kind of the point. But there's like zero adjustment, right? They don't adjust well. Even if you look, most of their wins, or not most, but some of them are like insane molly nades across the site or smoke kills while someone's planting the bomb or shooting through the box in Vertigo, right? Like, they rely on a lot of crazy clutch plays to win some of these rounds. There weren't as many comfortable 3v1 rounds or something like that. Like FaZe, it looked like they had them in their back pocket for most of the time.
Isn't that kind of the same thing that's said about FaZe a lot, though? Is that they just try to outgun and outskill you, right?
Yeah, but again, and that's why I'm saying I'm pumping the brakes on this one. I'm not. You had guys on the broadcast sitting here saying like, "Well, this is what FaZe has been working up to." Hold the phone. You're not telling me we're going from FaZe 2019 to one outing in 2020, and all of a sudden, like FaZe is back. Like I'm not there. Like I said, I'm not calling them frauds yet, but I'm also not saying FaZe is back at any, you know.
I'll give you my early prediction for the year then, since we're kind of starting off the year. It's still fresh. We got to see a little bit of them, so we'll give a taste. FaZe will be a top 5 team throughout the year. I don't think that that's a far stretch either. They've been sitting comfortably in the top 10, kind of lingering around there. So this is not like a team I'm projecting to go from 25 to top 5 all of a sudden. But I do think we will consistently see a better team from FaZe than we have in the past. For the reason being, I think having an opportunity to practice, reinvent yourself a little bit, and honestly, they got hit in the mouth pretty hard last year. You look at the rankings from HLTV rankings, you look at the player rankings. Um, that's got to be an ego hit for like a player like Nico to drop as far down on that list. Cold Zero to drop as far down on that list as they were for the top 20 players when just a year or two ago you were considered 1 or 1B, 1A, 1B. So I do think that pride is going to have a lot to do with this. Also, we did see Guardian, who we were like, man, Guardian just needs to get off of this roster and go to Navi. We did see how poor Guardian was performing. We saw it on 2 separate teams. So now they've had a time to work in Brokey, who is a younger, more energetic, has been playing really well, did really well in this tournament. I think we'll see FaZe be a consistent top 5 team throughout the year because I'm not sold on teams like 100 Thieves. I'm not sold on Fnatic holding a top 3 or 4 ranking throughout the year. And for a matter of fact, I'm not really sold on Mouse Sports doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't buy that Mouse Sports, although ranked number 2 in the world, will consistently be great throughout the year. They'll be good.
We're
They'll
not
have
on
their
the
moments of
group yet, but
greatness.
I'm with 100 Thieves is wildly overrated.
Yeah, I mean they're a good team. Again, we said it when they bought Renegades that hey, you bought yourself a top 10, top 15 team consistently. Renegades, now 100 Thieves, will be in that top 10, top 15 ranking throughout the year. They're good enough to be there. Do I think they're like number 7 consistently throughout the year? Probably not. I do think teams like Navi, like FaZe.
I think 100 Thieves is riding the 100 Thieves wave a little bit. I think people see that org and think, oh, it's 100 Thieves, it's Nade Shot. They crush everything they touch, right? Like, everything they touch just is money. So this will have to be money as well. Let's just remember where that Renegades roster used to be.
We're pretty top heavy in CS right now. Like there was a time there where I felt like we had a lot of diversity throughout the league. I thought there was an opportunity for 10 teams in any given tournament to really like take it or put a lot of pressure on, right? And maybe we take Astralis kind of out of this conversation a little bit, and that's still the case. But with Astralis, and you can't just say they're not there. Like there's still a clear-cut favorite going into like every tournament that I would watch, I think, for the whole of 2020. I don't really see that changing a ton.
So I think I was
But I
actually
feel like we're
thinking
still
about
top heavy. Like there's like
I was
4
thinking
or
about
5
this the
really good
earlier
teams.
today when you bring that up. I was thinking about this. when you're looking at the rankings in CSGO, let me tell you how my brain works so that you can either back me up. I would say if you are top 5, okay, if you are in the top 5 going into any tournament, you could win that tournament if you're in the top 5. Maybe top 3. Top 5 may be stretching it, but I'm looking at it right now, and Evil Geniuses is 5th best in the world. So I'm going to say top 5. I believe you could win that tournament, right? But if you are 6 through 10, I don't believe you're winning it. You might be able to make the finals, but you're not going to beat that team that makes it. And if you are out of the top 10, you stand absolutely no chance right now. I don't even, I see, right now, I see G2 at number 10. My eyes don't even see number 11. If they don't even register those as professional teams right now.
So I think in a lot of cases I would agree with that. I wouldn't agree with that the way the rankings are right now. I think if we flopped two being Mouse Sports, Fnatic being 4, and you plug in Vitality and Navi or Vitality and FaZe, then yeah, I would say the top 5 is going to consistently win 85% of tournaments this year. I think the way that it's set up now, we're going to see Vitality take a couple of tournaments throughout the year. I think we're going to see Navi
Like I
take a
said,
couple
6
tournaments
6 through
throughout the
10
year.
has that potential for upset, right? But I would never put money on them to upset. They have the potential, but I wouldn't bet on it. But right now, like you said, looking at it from out of the top 10,
Out of the top 10 is a joke to me. Like,
Yeah.
and starting with
It
ENCE, ENCE has
drops.
been a disaster. I know we're not going to talk about this tournament. We probably should have thrown it into E-News, honestly. But ENCE played this weekend, and they got to play against OG Esports. And so you saw Alexi B go up against his former team, and ENCE looked, Alu dropped 42 in a game, and they still lost. They were not able to compete with them. Sunny looked horrendous, and that was the swap out for Alexi. But you're right. Below the top 10, it's tough pickings, man. ENCE, NIP, Forza, Heroic, MIBR, Mad Lions.
You know
Although
what
Mad
you know
Lions,
what I call that if you're past the top 10? I call that the interesting to see category. Those are all the teams where you really don't have anything to say. So your analysis on it is, boy, Virtus Pro. It's going to be interesting to see.
it could be also known as B site here shortly,
It's
depending
going to
on
be
how
interesting to see how that team performs.
depending on how that breakdown happens here. Yeah, I mean, no, I agree. Out of the top 10 right now, it seems unlikely for them to pull off any major upsets throughout the year. But yeah, I think 1 through 10 can all give us a pretty competitive grouping. But I still think Astralis just stands out above and beyond the pack right now. They're just have asserted their dominance once again, which I just didn't think I'd be saying starting 2019.
Yeah.
Or now going into 2020, obviously.
Yeah, because, I mean, you look, it's like, it almost seems like 2 through 5, which at the moment is Mouse Sports, Liquid, Fnatic, Evil Genius, are almost like, what's the word? Self-imploding on each other, right? It's like, there's like a saying where you eat. It's definitely not eat yourself. What am I looking for?
I mean, they're all going at each other.
Yeah.
So, Mouse is the one that's going to be a little bit interesting just because of how strong of a finish they had to the year. Let's see if they can.
It's going to be interesting to see.
Kind of start off the year that way, but they did have a really good run here.
But that's what Mouse does,
at
right?
the end of the year. Yeah,
Mouse
they
has
had the ESL
really good
Pro
runs.
League, they had CS Summit, the Asia Championship. So they had 3 good tournaments to end the year. Again, I see them still finding a way to slide back a little bit from where they're at.
But that's what Mouse Sports does, right? They go number 2 in the world, slide back. Go to number 2 in the world, slide back. So that's just what, that's what they happen. So anyways, that was Group A. So now you have FaZe got first. Really, the only difference there was prize money. That's all that final match was playing for, is because both of them now are, and I guess seeding, but both of them now, Liquid and FaZe, are moving on to the finals. NIP and MIBR are going to the showdown, which is just the relegation battle later on in the year. So that will be interesting to see. That's the segue for I got nothing to say. Group B is this weekend. We'll talk more about them, though, for Thursday's episode, was Navi, Vitality, Astralis, and poor Complexity. Whatever Jason Lake did to piss someone off at Blast. But either way, we'll talk about that on the next episode here. So, I will just say, though, apart from the tournament, Blast has to have the best UI.
Yeah, it's the cleanest looking one. It's just the color scheme is very nice. Like just on the eyes, honestly, looking at it, like it looks very clean.
Everything is so.
They do a good job. They're like technologically advanced as well. I feel like in like some of the
They use
overview
Skybox,
stuff that they do. Yeah, like it's cool. They do a good job, and hell, I mean, I'm happy they're the ones starting off the year because it is a nice way to get into CS. Like I didn't feel like there was any major hiccups throughout the weekend, and like we mentioned before, they're the one league that has everybody that you would want to see involved in it. So
they're the one league that wasn't trying to piss in anyone's cereal.
Yeah.
Where B-Site and ESL kind of are.
And like we mentioned last episode, it looks like they're the ones that are going to come out looking victorious on this whole thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that's what happens. Let's move on to some Overwatch League talk. We don't talk about it a whole lot in the offseason, other than it seems like when people and talent leave and or get fired.
But tough offseason for Overwatch for sure.
It's just, I don't know. The player moving and stuff. It's interesting, but with the way Overwatch works, it's like, what do you say? You don't know what the meta is going to be like. You don't know what the patch is going to be like. You don't even know what the league format will be like or anything like that in the offseason. So, we talked about it one time when Taimu on the Dallas Fuel moved to the Contenders team, and we were like, oh, that makes a lot of sense because right now DPS is not part of the meta, or hit scan DPS, right? The headshot players. And he's a headshot guy. He plays Widow. He plays McCree. He likes getting those headshots. You can't do that right now with so many shields, so they move him to the Contenders roster. Well, then Blizzard turns around and announces, hey guys, this entire offseason as you are building out your roster for what you assume would be the meta, guess what? None of it matters because we are introducing hero pools and hero rotations into the game and into the pro scene. And from everything that I saw, it's going live this week for week 1 to start the year. Like,
this was a massive change.
Like, pass go, do not try on PTR, get right into it.
So what Tim is saying, to just explain, I guess, and Tim, correct me if I'm wrong here, but with the hero pools, each week will basically be a new set of heroes that are available to you with different bans being in place on a weekly basis. And that will rotate weekly as teams will also find out the week of which players are then banned or thus becoming available.
Think of if you were playing League of Legends for free, right? And you don't have any of the heroes unlocked each week. They tell you
which ones they are.
These are the heroes you can play with.
Those bans, you will never see a player banned 2 weeks in a row. And those bans are going to be based off of playtime or regularity used, I guess you could say. So you will probably see bans of obviously the common ones more often than not, but it won't be in back-to-back weeks. And did I explain that right, Tim?
Yeah. I mean, you got the gist of it, right? And so the backlash was, I wouldn't even say backlash, the reception of this all over the place. I mean, you're looking on Twitter, I'm on Reddit, I'm on just everywhere texting people, and they're just like, it almost seems like 50-50 where, people like it, people are interested to see what happens, but then that other 50% that don't like it really don't like it.
Well, where are you at on it?
I'm on the let's see what happens side. I'm not jumping directly into negativity. So and it even came from players like Dogman tweeted out, for better or for worse, Blizz just put their balls on the table and stabbed it with a knife, trying to avoid the major vein. Now, 2 things. If you're a player for a league that people are already saying might be struggling behind the scenes, probably don't want to dog on it, right? Like, let's pump those tires up a little bit. Secondly, I don't know what the hell that even means.
That's a very risky move.
It sounds bad.
I mean, it sounds
if I were to
like,
put my balls on the table and then to stab them,
but miss a major vein.
right? So is he just saying that it's a risky move?
But it still sucks either way.
I need
like it's not a win-win.
Yeah,
like
like
you're still stabbing your
what
balls
part
in
of stabbing your
situation.
balls? Like there's no good from there. So what's he trying?
I think it's a lose-lose situation.
I will
just,
have to.
bad,
Someone will have to ask
or
Dogman.
it could be really bad. So let me give you my take. I'm not on the wait and see so much here. I think it was a bad move. Not the concept necessarily, the implementation, which tends to be a lot of the negativity that we hear from publishers, right? Is the implementation. It's not always just the initial idea that you say is trash. This might be a terrible idea. Like it really could backfire,
it could be,
and
right?
on a week-to-week basis, it could be a shit show, and you're just not getting the best gameplay, from the game. However, I think the implementation here was even worse. To do this like literally 2 weeks before the league kicks off, you're talking about, again, these teams are investing so much time and money and practice time, like players' physical time practicing to play this game
Well,
a
I mean, you're
certain
costing
way.
players jobs. People are changing their roster thinking, I won't need this player because we don't ever see like 76 becoming a mainstream player again, right? Too many
But now
shields.
there's a chance.
And
you
now
have
there's
to
a
pick 'em
chance.
up.
So it's like, okay, well, we just dropped our 76 player, dude. Like,
Yeah.
we dropped him for
No.
a flex support. A flex support. What are we going to do with that?
I really feel like this was something that was decided recently. I don't think this was something that they figured out like 6 months ago, and they were like, "Hey, let's wait and hold this info," and then roll it out 2 weeks before the start of the season. I think there was a lot of pushback recently for no big update to help address the meta concerns that we do
The
have in the game.
off-season's been dead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, there's been no new news. The personalities in Overwatch are not overpowering personalities. Doesn't mean we don't have any. It's just you don't have any that like really truly stand out in the esports scene, right? Like whether that's because of the culture behind a
Right.
lot of the game
But-
is Asian culture, and they don't not the same way
But
here
it
in the
doesn't
States.
bleed over to other scenes. Like you have
Yeah.
Counter-Strike players who talk to COD players on Twitter, and like I see Nitro referencing, Claysters or Clayster like falling off a map or something. Like you see that crossover with Overwatch.
You just don't see it a ton.
Right.
But I do think this was something that there was a lot of pressure for hero bans to come into play one way or the other. We saw a big push from the community asking for hero bans. I don't think they wanted to go that far because that could also directly impact a couple of players' like livelihood in the game.
For the
If somebody was
entire
just
season.
yeah, like if somebody could just ban your most OP player's character week in and week out, that's probably not
Like,
the best
you
thing for
have
the
the
game
top
either.
Genji in the game? Wouldn't it be a
See you
shame if
later.
we banned
Yeah.
Genji every time?
And so like I think they wanted to find something to throw in here and implement. I think the better way to have done this would have been similar to how you see characters picked within a Dota, in a Dota or a League of Legends, right? Maybe you let yourselves do a pick first, though. However, instead of a ban, maybe you get 2 picks instead of a ban. So your top 2 players are always going to be guaranteed to get the players that they want to get, and you don't see them get banned. Or maybe the way that is done is on some type of rotation itself. But this just seems a little like
Yeah, like
we
maybe,
don't
hey,
know.
this
We
game you
didn't
get
know
to
what
pick
we
your
wanted to
tanks
do.
first. Next game you get to pick your DPS first or what. And this isn't a perfect system. It wasn't a perfect system before. I agree. To do it this early before a season when you've had months. When was Philly? When that
I mean,
September? October, something like that? I mean, you had
Yeah.
months of the offseason to do this. I agree it feels last minute considering it was just a couple weeks ago, last week, when we were talking about the rumors of hero bans coming to Overwatch, and then Jeff came out and said, no, hero bans aren't going to happen. We don't want that. and then you announce this, which is different but same, right? Like
It's still hero bans. Is you're just determining which ones are banned,
yeah,
and changing that weekly. Which again, that's kind of the worst part is the players don't know ahead of time. Like it'd be different if you gave a season schedule and be like, hey, this week these players are banned. This week these players are banned. Then you prep and practice because
yeah,
the way travel works, and again, we've talked about this at nausea, but travel for some of these teams is so horrendous. They're not going to have an opportunity to sit there and scrim and practice and play the way they want to. And you can say, oh, well, they have all this time on the plane with new computers and this and that, and maybe they could do it that way or in the hotel room. That's not the best way to get practice in. And that's the same thing we just talked about in Counter-Strike for a team like FaZe having a month off to practice. We see such a different team right now than we saw the second half of 2019. And so it does put some teams at a huge disadvantage that are
right.
not playing, at home most of the time like the Justice are with their ugly red and black. So I do think the implementation here was poor, and I think it's going to hurt the overall. I think it will hurt the overall product. I just don't think there's any way to avoid that. I still think they could have been more creative with this, whether announcing it earlier, announcing it for the whole season on what it may be. Um,
So this is where I think it's not that big a deal, and I think a lot of people are being dramatic about it.
well, is 222 still in play with this?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's still 2-2-2, and I think the way they're banning it is like they're banning 1-1 and 2. So they're banning 2 DPS players a week, 1 support and 1 tank. I believe that's what I saw. Obviously, because there's just more DPS players, right? So ban 2, it makes it even. But this is where, and I even tweeted out that I think people are being a little dramatic about this. Look at the people being the most vocal about it. Okay, we talked about it last week with Thorn and B-Site, how he's got a dog in the hunt. The people who seem to be most vocal about this are the guys who were just recently let go or didn't re-sign, quit, fired, however you want to paint the picture, no longer with the league that they used to be in. So I take that with a grain of salt. They seem a bit jaded to me with their opinions, a bit harsh.
But they should be, right? Like if they had 6 months and they had outlined this, maybe some of those teams would have kept these players knowing that, hey, this guy is like the best 76 we could find.
Well, the teams, sure, but I'm just talking about like the personality, like the casters who are no longer with the league saying that this is the downfall
you're
of the
talking about the
Overwatch
talent
League.
side.
Yes, from the
Yeah.
talent side is what I'm talking. Well, players have all the right to be as pissed as they want about this. Like you said, especially for those guys who lost jobs because their specialty was not.
So you're talking about the talent that's basically no longer with Overwatch
I'm
League.
talking
That's
about
in
the
Call
talent.
of Duty or
The
Counter-Strike or
talent
whatever.
seemed a bit dramatic because you got people saying like, "Oh, Blizzard's creating the bans. They're choosing the meta. They're choosing the bans. That's not fair." Well, guys, let's take a step back here. Blizzard was choosing the bans all along. They controlled the meta. Like, these guys could have played 76. They could have played Widow anytime they wanted to. They could have played other guys, but they didn't because they chose the best players for that current patch, for that meta that Blizzard created. Like, there's, at least now, there's a chance you see other heroes, right? And maybe the fact that it changes every week, I think these pros are good enough at the game. They don't need as much time as people are saying to practice. Your point to the travel, that is shit. Like, you're going to
What do you do
teams.
in 1 week if you're traveling cross country or across the world in 1 week? You start thinking of, look at us. We traveled just from like Philly to here, and like we're tired the next day. You don't really feel like doing a whole lot. We were up late, the time of going to the airport, then sitting at the airport, and then finally your travel schedule, and then driving to the location. Like, the last thing you want to do is get home and be like, okay, now let's grind 9 hours to figure out this week's meta.
Right.
So I think if they had laid that out ahead of time, that would have alleviated some of my bigger problem here, Tim, is I just don't feel like this makes it a better product.
No, but I don't think it's going to make it like an exceptionally worse product because
it doesn't. But why do it then? If it's not making your product better,
because it's going to keep it lively. I think it is going to make the product better In the long run,
And
I do, because you're going to see a variety of heroes now, and you're going to have those bench players and teams actually have to start thinking about their roster and who they're playing, right?
but how often would it be in a so again, you said it's 2 DPS, 1 support, 1 tank gets banned each
Right.
week, right? How often would it be that 3 out of those 4 bans, let's just say 3 out of the 4, not even all 4 are 4. 3 out of those 4 bans are players that are currently used in today's meta. What are the odds that we see 3 of them banned at one time, which
Well, but
really
again,
makes
though,
it like,
you have
okay,
to
now I'm
know
seeing a bunch of new
in
players.
Overwatch, it takes one hero being banned to change the meta. Like, you can't have the current meta without Sigma. You take Sigma out, that completely changes everything. You take Orisa
Okay.
out, it completely changes everything, right? The only reason the meta is the same way now is because those 2 tanks can be picked.
So you're saying if one player is out, it could alter 3 or 4 other players to have to pick
It's
somebody
going to create a
different.
shift down the road. It's not just
Okay,
you're
that
not
makes
just
sense.
taking out the op or whatever, right? You're taking out a pillar of that meta. Let's just think about like with the dive meta back in the day. Well, if you took Winston out, if Winston was out of the rotation for that week, you're not going to just dive solo with Diva and someone else. Like, no, like Winston's bubble was why that worked.
Yeah.
So that's what people are I think, who maybe don't play Overwatch or are just forgetting that it's like, it's not just taking one hero out and then, well, just shift over. It's going to completely, I think,
That would be good. I hope
Yeah.
that's the case. So I hope that's what we end up seeing, and you make a great point. And I really hope that's the way it is, because if we did see an influx of new characters being played, that would give me a little bit more intrigue to kind of keep up with it week to week, or give me a reason to watch week to week instead of waiting for like maybe a stage tournament or the finals.
Because it's like,
to
oh, wow,
really...
this week. Oh, wow, look who's banned this week. It's going to be insane to see the DPS battles now. Or, oh, man, this guy is not available this week. It's going to suck for this one team, and they're going to have to learn to adjust, right?
For me, it's just character variety. Like, if I could just see more people be played, I would have a little bit more interest.
Well, and I think that's what part of why they're doing it, right? Because, again, I'm seeing all these people on the internet saying how Blizzard shouldn't be controlling it. All right, so give it to the players. They're going to ban Sigma or Orisa every time. They're going to ban the same people every time because that's what the meta is. Overwatch does not have enough players for player bans yet. The reason you can do a player ban in games like League or Dota is because there's hundreds of people to pick from and hundreds of people to play around and ban. And all right, this team actually likes playing this type of hero in this style. You don't get that in Overwatch. You get the one blanket meta that everyone plays with.
Yeah, you're right, because the character pool is what, 30? At 30, 40
is it
people?
that many? It might be.
It's not a lot.
It's not
I
a
don't
lot,
feel like
no.
that's a lot. It's not as small as like a game, let's
And
say,
especially
like
because you break
Apex,
it
for
down
example.
between three sets,
No, I mean, again, I'm really interested to see how this plays out. I think the implementation is poor. You've kind of convinced me that maybe the idea could be good.
Yeah.
Because I think I was kind of all against this for the most part. So I am a lot more curious to see how it plays out and if it just gives us a better product. Because at the end of the day, I think that's the main focus right now is how do we push out a better product than we've had the first 2 years. Not to say that it's been terrible. We haven't been that podcast that sits here and bashes on Overwatch. If anything, I think we've supported it more than any other non-Overwatch podcast or just group of people out there, whether it be media or people involved in gaming somehow. We're really not overly negative on Overwatch, but I also find it hard for me to sit here and like pitch it to everybody as the best esport because it's not that either, So if they can find a way to give me a better product, I would be more interested because I do enjoy the game.
Tell you straight up, like stages 3 and 4 last year were just straight up boring. They were boring to watch. And I think that's what they want to avoid. And they want to avoid harsh stage-long meta shifts, right? Before, the only time they would ever implement a patch is in between stages. And if that patch didn't work out or if that meta was boring, a la the double shield meta, like what do they get to, they can't do anything about that until the stage is over and the playoffs start, and then you get a whole new meta with Sigma, and like
Well, then it has the issue of then like they do a lot of these changes like right before you get into playoff time, and so
yeah,
that causes a whole nother like it's all bad publicity at that point. I know you
right,
say any good press is like any press is good press.
but not for
It's not like
this,
really not for the
not
gaming
really.
industry. That's not really how that works.
Now
So
I will say
um
this, Blizzard, if you are listening, stick to your guns on this and just ride or die with it for the season, or at least to the All-Star break and the midway point. If all of a
yeah.
sudden the rotation thing isn't working, do not do it for one stage and then change your mind. Just do it for there's a good stopping point at the All-Star break and you can change it, or you ride or die with it. Because I don't need them completely, and maybe this is like also going to help them completely reworking heroes, because it seemed like almost every stage there was some hero that got completely 180'd reworked, and so maybe this will kind of help spice up the meta a little bit. Like I said, I agree with the implementation. If I was a player, I would be absolutely pissed about it. But I'm a kind of a glass half full. I want to see the Overwatch League succeed, but I'm also not going to uh pump its tires when it doesn't need to be pumped. Like I think that this also has potential to blow up and not be successful, but I said I'm leaning more towards that. I think it will spice it up a little bit. I have no idea. I'm assuming the rotations are out for this week, right? I haven't even looked
yeah, actually we'll probably dive into that on
on Wednesday's show. So
and see what it is.
but that's not the only thing that's changing for this week or for this year in Overwatch League. In all Blizzard Activision's games, we mentioned it. We never really dove too far into it, but of course, you will now find the Overwatch League on YouTube, as Blizzard signed a deal moving pretty much all their games, Call of Duty, Overwatch, Hearthstone, all of them over
World of
to YouTube.
Warcraft. Yeah, I think Tim, you and I have talked about this at length. I feel now, and I am not a fan of the move outside of this for Call of Duty. I think if this was like a Call of Duty move, I do think it's a great move, just because for Call of Duty that that world originated in YouTube, right? From like your trick shot
Optic
groups, like your
Gaming.
phase clans, your optics. Um, they built their brands on YouTube, and that's where a lot of that fan base is generally used to going. And then on top of that, like with Call of Duty, I feel like there's a lot of replayability. So you're gonna see a lot of people maybe not watch that event live, but then go back and like watch that on the YouTube channel, right? On the team's YouTube page or however they want to promote it. You'll probably see 1 million+ people go back and watch it after the fact. Maybe again, not live, so it could hurt them on the live numbers for Call of Duty, but not so much on the replayability and everything else. So I think for Call of Duty, great move. It works. I am absolutely terrified for what this is going to do to not only Overwatch League, um, but I'm very worried for World of Warcraft. I'm very worried for their arena, um, their arena league. I'm worried for their what is that thing called? Now I'm drawing a blank. Um,
The
the
racer?
time dungeon
Yeah, the
runs.
time dungeon run.
What is it called? Help me out here.
Mystic
Yeah, the
races?
mythic runs, the mythic
runs?
runs. So the mythic league. So I'm really worried for them, along with Hearthstone. Whatever, I don't care enough about it to tell you whether I'm worried for him or not. Don't care.
Sir.
But I do think for Overwatch League and for both leagues in World of Warcraft, this is going to be a tough hit on viewership numbers. Tim, I think people underestimate the amount of foot traffic that just goes through Twitch to watch games specifically, right? Like they might not be looking for one particular thing, but it's like one of those websites you just pull up and you kind of just see what's on, and maybe you latch on to something. And
Well, and
hell,
you
if
also
there's
see the top viewed, right? And you're like, whoa,
exactly,
100,
it's like, oh,
120.
everybody's watching this. Let me check it out. YouTube's, as far as I've seen, does a crap job of promoting anything esports related on their front page. It's not where it's from. And again, Tim's going to tell you the numbers here in a moment to talk about how much money and all that YouTube is making, and they're going to shock you. There's no comparison between Twitch and YouTube when it comes to like ad revenue and things of that sort. But that's not what we're comparing here. We're
Right.
comparing an esports audience. Where is this esports audience going to take in their content? It's still not YouTube. It's still not Mixer. Mixer signed Shroud. Mixer signed Ninja. They got the two biggest streamers over the last 2 years, and it hasn't made a dent in Twitch's viewership. In fact, I'm one of them, man. I thought I would go watch Shroud wherever Shroud went because I really enjoy watching his stream. Guess what? I really have not tuned into a Shroud stream in quite some time. Now, maybe partially because he's playing Escape from Tarkov 24/7. I don't care to watch that. But I just don't casually browse Mixer. If I'm casually browsing YouTube, it's for my random crap that I'm going to watch on stuff about the solar system. It's
Right.
not like, again, it's not my esports viewing content. So I am very worried about what this move does for those two leagues from a viewership standpoint, and just gaining a new audience because there's just not foot traffic in my mind. That shit, I had you messaging me on where to find CDL, like, oh, it's live, like I didn't know it was live
Yeah.
yet, I can't find it. So if you're having a hard time, I can't imagine what that does to the casual fan that watches Overwatch League or any of the other, leagues that are there for Blizzard.
So you brought up the numbers. Just looking at this, then this was just reported today. This is from Slasher's tweet. That Google reported YouTube's revenue for 2019 at over 15 billion with a B dollars.
That's a disgusting number.
That is almost unbelievable. $15 billion. Now that's stretched over, I'm sure, YouTube Music, YouTube TV,
YouTube as a
everything.
whole.
Right, YouTube as a whole. Twitch, on the other side of that, reported their 2019 revenue from ads at 300 million with an M. Also respectable, but when you're seeing it next to the 15 billion, you're like, Twitch sucks. Like, why would anyone go on Twitch? That's what the numbers are. That's what people think, though, when they see the numbers.
Yeah, the people that see that, though, and just look at it that way don't have a clear concept of how this actually works. Like, that YouTube is doing so much more than what Twitch is doing. It's not even close. Mom and dad go to YouTube and watch content, right? Mom and dad are not going to Twitch to watch content. You have ages 13 to 25 really soaking in Twitch content.
Yeah.
You have ages 4 to 95 soaking in YouTube content because YouTube has something for everyone. Twitch has something for 10% of the world, if even that much, so they're not comparable when it comes to that. Now, what maybe Twitch could look at is how they do their ads. Maybe it's not maybe they're not doing their ad runs like the best way. Those are things that you could like compare between the two. But like just a blanket number like that to say, oh look, YouTube's bigger than Twitch. Well, no shit.
Right.
Like,
And
of course they are.
I think you made a very good point. Is the how easy it is to rewatch something on YouTube compared to Twitch. Like YouTube's video player is obviously just worlds better than Twitch. Like trying to pause and fast forward and rewind on Twitch is a pain in the ass, but on YouTube it's like flawless, right? It's so easy to go back and watch a VOD on YouTube. So maybe they get more revenue, more money that way, right? Like maybe that's part of where that revenue sharing is coming in.
Ads, right?
Right? And so maybe that's where in the Call of Duty League and Overwatch League, they're getting all that revenue share from those replayed streams where they said, look, we could go to YouTube and sure, our live numbers might be less, but maybe these replay numbers will break even or even make more money. I promise you, Google, fucking dropped that dick on the table of $15 billion in their sales pitch, right? You think they didn't bring up $15 billion in revenue in their sales pitch to Activision? No, that was probably on every slide. So my one thing is what is YouTube? What is Google going to do to promote these leagues? Because right now, the latest news is that they're working on ways to where viewers can get items from watching, which we have
They're
learned,
working on issues from 2003 somehow.
which we have seen in Overwatch. That does increase viewership. Like, you get crates and the points for watching the league, and then you can
Counter-Strike's done it for years with the souvenir packages.
Yeah, and so that will obviously increase viewership. But I don't.
Have you ever watched a game to get the in-game item?
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't think that's the catalyst. I think that's a nice perk, right?
Yeah.
But if I'm a fan of the esport, I'm not watching this. I don't get a box from this. What do you? It's not worth my time. Like, no, if I want to
You've
watch.
never tuned in to get an item, I'm assuming, though.
Right.
If you're watching, you're watching. If you get an item, it's a bonus. Like a
Yes.
souvenir package. I've never watched Counter-Strike matches thinking, oh, I'm going to get a souvenir package. I was like, oh, I got one. That's kind of cool,
Listen,
you know?
if you think you're
I'm
gonna
looking
get,
at
if you
the
watch to get a
Atlanta
souvenir package,
Dallas Empire replay. So this is Atlanta FaZe versus Dallas Empire replay has 300K views on Twitch.
and that's huge.
I'm sorry, on YouTube.
And that's huge.
And that's huge.
I don't think you
You
would get that on Twitch for a replay.
You would get none virtually on a replay. Nobody goes back to Twitch VODs for the most part. There are some, but let's be real. That number is nowhere near.
Yeah, I'm going
what
to
it would be
YouTube
on
for
YouTube.
a VOD that was streamed on
Exactly.
Twitch, right? That's the funny thing. So now it's all kind of in-house. It's too early to tell. Like, if we're being honest, it's way too early to say, like, well, this was a dumb decision. When ESL signed with Facebook, you didn't have to wait to know that was a dumb decision. This is a different story. I don't think it's going to be a dumb decision because I think Google and YouTube are going to work with the leagues. But, right now, Activision can't really say anything about not having advertising on YouTube when they don't even have advertising in their own game for the league. So that'd be a little pot calling the kettle black.
What's an average match on Twitch for Overwatch League? About 100K?
I would say, 90 to 100. That's just me.
We'll even give it 80 to 100. Give it a 20K.
We'll say 80 to
kind
100, depending on what teams.
I'm really curious to see what that number.
You're not going to get that. I promise.
I don't even know if we'll get like 40 to 50 on YouTube.
Because you know what Twitch did for the Overwatch League is they had it on the front page of Twitch. They had it on embedded stuff for Twitch. All across the internet, embedded views, which counts for views, and that's how everyone said they got their numbers. YouTube, you don't go to YouTube and you see Overwatch League, right? You see all this other garbage and Markiplier, even though I've hit him 1,000 times.
And subscriptions and all that other stuff, and the top news is on there, and
top 50 TikTok
trending
hotties.
And all that stuff. So yeah, you're right. It's too early to tell. I don't have the greatest feeling about this one, though. I think there's other benefits that I'm not seeing. I'm talking about from an initial upfront viewership number. It's going to be pretty disastrous for. I think Overwatch League will take a large hit, if not close to 50% hit. I don't know what this does to World of Warcraft.
Because that was a big window shopper game. You want to talk about foot traffic?
All that was.
Because I don't follow the World of Warcraft scene. I just saw that they were having mythic runs on their front page and it had 120,000 viewers. And I was like, oh, damn, yes. Or I saw it on the side, right, of like, because I follow them on Twitch. So I saw that, oh, man, they're on. Oh, it's a big race. So I'd watch it. Again, even if I was subscribed to World of Warcraft on Twitch, it does not show up on the homepage when they're live. You have to go to their page.
No, you're right. I mean, I think that's going to be fairly disastrous for.
I think they need to get with these owners that know esports, that know advertising to esports, and say, guys, we have $15 billion to play around with right now. What do we need to do? And quite honestly, how about you just ditch the gaming section and you just add an esports section? Because if you're investing this much money into it, you should probably separate it. Because, and I've always told this to people who don't know what the hell they're talking about when it comes to this podcast. Oh, well, why don't you guys talk about Super Mario? Oh, why don't you have this person on? Because they could talk about Zelda. Look, we are gamers. We love Mario. We love Zelda. Gaming and esports, I'm not trying to be a gatekeeper here, but when it comes to a discussion, are two separate things.
They are.
Like we'll do our E3 episode every year, right? Just because we can intertwine everything together. But I'm not going to talk about the latest Nintendo Mario news on this podcast because it's separate.
Because there's 100 other podcasts out there that will talk about gaming, but won't mention a lick about esports.
Exactly. A gaming
two different
podcast is not
worlds.
going to bring up esports. An esports podcast isn't going to bring up gaming. So why on YouTube are they all together?
Yeah.
And I
No,
know
I think
on
you're right. I
Twitch
think
they're
there
all
needs to be
together,
an
but
esports
again,
section, and
it's just the way Twitch organizes their stuff is different. They organize it by game, and YouTube is just solely focusing on YouTube. The way they do it is rough. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm really interested to see this week with the opening of the Overwatch League what those numbers are looking like on Twitch, or I'm sorry, on YouTube. Especially if they don't have the access to get drops. Like, how else are you going to get league tokens? Which is, again, a kind of big thing, right? That was all a big thing for Twitch, and you got skins for, like, subscribing and everything. And if they can't do that yet for YouTube, I don't know. And I'm sure that will play a hit for the casual viewer. Maybe not the hardcore guy, but, we'll see. We'll see. Is that the last of it for Overwatch League for now?
I believe so.
Now. I'll talk a little bit more about the teams for Wednesday's show and stuff, but again, I'm more interested to see this hero pool coming up for week 1, and then we can dive a little bit onto the teams. But until then,
well, Overwatch is going to be on this show. I mean, there's no it's not going anywhere, right? And we're going to be at the homestand this weekend, so it should be a fun episode on Sunday because we're really excited for that. And one thing we know they can do is put on at least a good live show.
Yeah,
we've seen that, whether that's here, whether that's been in New York last year's finals, Philly last year's final, New York the year before that. They put on a good live show. We were hoping they could find a way to translate that to the general viewer as well. But
it's kind of funny when you look at the start of the Overwatch League and all of the off season and compare it to Call of Duty's off season and start of the season. Both were surrounded by such negativity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Such pessimism. And look at CDL. The weekend was fine. It was great. People enjoyed it. People had fun. No real hiccups. I think the same will be for Overwatch League. I think once the games start rolling, the hero bans will become more of a conversational point for strategy and things like that, as opposed to, Blizzard's trying to control the game. Look at this. Let's ignore the fact that it's been the same meta for a year and a half because of what Blizzard did. Blah.
There's more scrutiny surrounding Overwatch League, though, right? Like with Call of Duty,
people
weren't going to openly just blast it because there's a general acceptance there, and Call of Duty has kind of been a staple in the esports community and has held down the console scene for a long time. So even though there's bashing towards generally the developer, it's not like against Call of Duty as a whole. Overwatch League's a little bit different. Overwatch League, there's a lot of negativity surrounding Overwatch League, and a lot of people out there telling you they don't want to see it fail. This is more like wise words to be cautious here. That's a bunch of horse poop in my mind. Like, there's a lot of haters out there towards Overwatch League. A lot of very vocal haters out there towards Overwatch League. And I'm sure you're going to see a ton of it after this weekend. And then they're going to sit there and tell you, again, they don't want it to fail. They're just trying to help it, and they really want to see it succeed.
Oh, they're just wanting to see, just a cautious tale from years past.
Yeah, so again, you're going to see a lot of negativity surrounding Overwatch League. So that'll be the one difference where Call of Duty went off without a hit, without any major issues for the most part. There were some pretty big delays throughout the weekend, but again, nothing major to take it down, and then people are not going to come out and just bash it. I think a little bit opposite towards Overwatch League. Even if we feel as viewers it's a good weekend, you're still going to have the haters piling onto it.
Like you said, especially with what we expect to be lower numbers, right? Viewer numbers. It's just that entire deal is going to be scrutinized. They're going to say it's because of the patch. Ooh, the patch created a lower viewership. Overwatch is dead. It very well could be dead. Again, I'm not here to knee pad Overwatch. I'm just telling you my opinion on the game that I enjoy watching and haven't played in months because of the meta that's been stuck in its rut for almost a year now, it feels like. So again, bring on the hero pool bans. For the love of God, let me play McCree and my DPS characters again. I would love it. And also, all these people trying to bitch and moan about Blizzard controlling the game with their patches. Shut up.
They've already done that. They've done that for years. So
Every developer does that. How quickly we forget the last patch in Counter-Strike was supposed to kill Counter-Strike. Right? Everyone said, oh, Counter-Strike's turning into Call of Duty. Oh, this is the death of Counter-Strike. Well, a couple months later, I think Counter-Strike is still going strong.
Counter-Strike devs are controlling the meta. Yeah, look at the economy system. Hell, look at the bench they just put in mid Mirage.
Yeah.
That affects the whole meta of that map. So they all do it.
Hey, guys, why don't we just switch up this skybox on B site for Dust 2 that hasn't been touched in 20 years? No one is saying that Valve is controlling that, though. Like, okay. I guess players are just choosing that.
There's a wait and see approach here. Tim has convinced me a little bit more on this wait and see approach. I was feeling pretty salty towards the hero ban. Again, more the implementation than the actual idea, but I am in the wait and see boat also. So we'll give you all an update on this probably on next Monday's episode.
Yeah, you know what's funny is we will, like Anuj said, we will be at the homestand in Arlington this weekend. So we will be able to talk to the players directly about this. So we should get some juicy audio or at least some juicy responses on it. We'll have plenty to talk to them about. That's for
going to focus on the losing team interviews. Those are going to be some fun ones.
Damn sure. Yeah, you think won't be bitter about it or anything? Like, oh, do you think if Sigma wasn't banned, you guys would have won?
It's like, oh, you mean what we were practicing for the last 6 months?
But you know what? I forgot this is Overwatch League, so no, the players aren't going to say anything, and they're just going to be super nice about it and move on with their lives because that's what Overwatch pros translator. Do.
Just kidding, just kidding.
All right, let's get some e-news here, and we'll wrap up the show. In CSGO, Smiths, our boy, retires from professional CSGO. Of course, he played for G2, coached G2, as you heard from our liner, once upon a time.
Been on the bench for a little bit of time also, so he hasn't been like on the active roster for a little bit here, and he's moving into more of a streaming career, and I think that'll be a good move for him. He had kind of finished up here, and Shox was really the only thing I feel like keeping him on a lot of these rosters. Now Shox obviously being gone, it was just a matter of time before this move was made. But wish him all the best, good dude, and obviously big fan of the show, so we appreciate that.
B-Site announces an open qualifier. We actually talked about this last week, right? Well, what is B-Site going to be doing for the tier 3, whatever you want to tier say is, and it looks like they are doing an open qualifying tournament for Europe, NA, and I believe I saw South America on there. Going to be a $100,000 prize pool, and a first place goes to Season 1. That you get a spot for Season 1 of B-Site.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
They just threw this out there also. I don't think this was like they heard a lot. Either they threw it out there because they heard a lot of the backlash, or they quickly put it together because they didn't have one in place. But either way, this is a good, it is a good option.
They need to announce the name of their league.
Oh, yeah, I do. Envy has announced. So speaking of announcements, Envy has announced their new roster. Obviously, Nifty and Ryan staying on board. Ryan coming from Singularity, he had been there for a little bit. Calix, this was an interesting pickup because Calix is coming from ex-Space Soldiers roster, and he's performed at several big lands. The only non-North American player on this roster, obviously they have Leja as well. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong from Big, but Calix coming over. Oh, you know what? They also have Michu. Michu is coming from Virtus Pro.
You just blew my mind if he was American.
Yeah. No, Michu's coming from Virtus Pro. He was kind of like a late addition to that roster. And so two unique moves because Michu and Calix both being non-North American, making the moves here. This might have been one of the best offers that they had, but I don't think it's a bad lineup. And then Moose coming over from longtime E United player coming on and being a part of that roster. So excited to see what Envy is going to do and what this roster really ends up being. I don't think we'll know right away, but a good opening day performance and qualified for the North American closed qualifier. So that's a win there for him.
I'm kind of surprised to see them go to a mixed roster,
Yeah.
Especially,
no, it's
especially
a
since like
unique
the
move.
rumor was Nifty was kind of leading the charge. You would have thought, okay, well, if a player's leading the charge,
Maybe these guys didn't read some of these North American articles on what's been going
maybe
on
they
with
couldn't
Nifty,
read
and
them, and they
so
were like,
it just
what does this
had
say?
no
I don't
interest. Like,
know.
it's good. It's good.
Nifty.
In
Don't worry
Battle
about it.
Royale
Don't worry. It
news,
says
Tim.
Nifty's great. Nifty's great. That's what it says.
Battle Royale news. We talked about this last week a little bit. Apex revealing their new legend. The new update is live tomorrow, guys. So that is coming out. Season 4 will be available to you. Lots of changes coming to the current map. I believe Kings Canyon is coming back into rotation, if I'm not mistaken. The league is about to kick off, but the new update tomorrow will bring in a new champion, new updates to the map. They'll have new weapons and all that fun stuff for you to go and play with. And I would love to see this game make some sort of turnaround. Not to say it's a dead game. It's not a dead game. But they've definitely taken a huge hit from where they were in the first 6 weeks of launch to where they're at today.
I'm going to say it. I think they're going to be the next Rainbow Six Siege, where they always surprise us with the fact of the show up when it comes to their pro league, a dedicated player. Because say what you want, EA or Respawn, whoever's in charge over there, they care about that game, right? Like they are definitely surprising a lot of people with like, oh, new content is kind of coming regularly, and your guys' cutscenes and player announcements are on point. Like
badass.
If Apex really, ever fails as a game, just make it a movie
series or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I actually think that's a fantastic comparison. Maybe something we should talk about at another time. But I think that's a great comparison because Apex, the one thing that they're able to do, unlike other battle royales, is continue to grow the game based on a character pool, and that's hard to do with like PUBG. There's only so much PUBG can do to revamp that game. They can give you a new map, add new weapons. That's really about it, unless they want to fix the whole game because it still plays a little buggy in my mind. Apex is able to offer you a new experience with a new map and new characters, obviously with the other stuff of weapons and things of that sort. So I think Apex has the ability to become a consistent tier 1 game. I think they need to still have several more heroes than they have. But you're right. I think over time, this is one of those games that could like slowly creep its way back into mainstream.
And also, it's almost not even fair comparing it to where it was because it launched. I mean, it was like, hey, here's a game called Apex. Oh my God, it's breaking every Twitch viewership record under the sun. And we're going to see it soon, right? Because now people are saying like, oh, Apex just paid a bunch of streamers to stream their game again. So
it'll be crazy tomorrow. And I agree with you. There was going to be a fall off. My problem is they didn't do anything to address that fall off until like Season 2 Battle Pass came out so long after launch. I felt like one of the things they could have done is just at least, hey, we have characters in the pipeline. Shroud had mentioned several maps that he had played when they went out and tested it. So they had stuff there. They just wanted to release it on their timeline, and that's fine. You just lost a big part of your player base. So again, I would love to see it come back because that's one game I do enjoy playing. And I think it's an easy watching game too, personally. I don't think it's a difficult battle royale to watch. And so things are very visible and in your face, and it's not like you have to spot somebody 1,000 meters out and you see just the tip of their head over a mountain. Like, the game is very in your face up front, and it's a straight shooter. So would love to see it come back on the big screen.
In other news, Gareth Bale starts his own org, of course, being a soccer superstar, as he starts with 11s. And apparently,
that's cool.
They're going to be in like quite a bit of esports or quite a bit of games. We'll see.
Get back to me when they're actually in those games. They did say they're open to like they want to compete in every title under the sun. He listed all of them, and I'm sure Gareth Bale's contract could cover rosters amongst every single one of those esports if they wanted. But a good start. Get into some of these leagues. Let's see how this works out.
And Rocket League, this was announced today. The RLCS finals will be coming to Texas April 24th through the 26th. So we will definitely be attending that. I've always wanted, I've been to like Dream Hacks and things like that had Rocket League. It was so fun to watch. So I can't wait to go to like a Seoul Rocket League championship. So this has got to be played in Arlington or the Star. Are they selling out Cowboy Stadium? Like, where is this going to be, Anuj?
Garland, Texas. At the Will something something.
Okay. So you went from London to Madrid, maybe New York or LA sprinkled in
They
there?
say Dallas on the flyer. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
of course they're gonna say
I'm
Dallas.
sure they say Dallas on the
Of course
flyer.
they're gonna say Dallas. Listen, don't believe their lies, folks. We live here. We know the terrain. Garland ain't Dallas. Garland is in BFE. In fact, go watch Zombieland, and they make fun of Garland in like the first 5 minutes when he's like, "You might think this is a zombie apocalypse. No, it's Garland, Texas."
There is an IKEA out there now, though. So
It's built up. I mean, it's 10 years ago.
it was nothing.
I don't even know if they had running water in Garland.
It's an odd spot. We haven't been up to Garland in years, and it's not like terribly far from us. So not many.
So they have an
reasons to go
IKEA in
out there,
Garland and
but
Frisco?
Yeah.
Wow. Who would have thought IKEA was in Garland? Garland. Maybe I'm just used to it being in the absolute middle of nowhere. We'll give it a shot when we go there in April, though, for sure. So we'll, man, we got a busy time coming up with League of Legends, RLCS. Crazy. TCR is going to be busy. Let me tell you that. But we're not busy with this episode anymore, because episode 209, it's done. It's in the books. Thank you so much for listening, whether you listened to the whole darn thing or skipped around. Love you all the same. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring. Get your friends, get your family, get everyone you know to follow. Do whatever you must to make sure we live on into perpetuity. You listen on iTunes. You listen on, podcast at Podbean or something of another. You listen on CastBox. Give us a like, give us a review, let us know what you think of the show. Our Discord you can find on our Twitter and our website, tcr.gg. We will be back for Thursday's episode. We will have James O'Connor, owner of the Pittsburgh Knights, on with us to discuss the org, his built up in esports. It's a fascinating story. James has been on the show before. He's a good dude. Love talking to him, and he loves talking, so it works out. What else? Talk a little bit of Premiere, Blast Premiere, talk a little Overwatch. We'll get to it when we get to it. That's it. That does it. We'll talk to you on Thursday for Anuj. I'm Tim. We'll see ya.